Welcome back to Dad's XP. My name is CJ, and today we'll be exploring the highly anticipated Black Myth Wukong. Now, before we begin, if you like what we do here and you want to support us, you can leave us a like, a comment, and a sub. As always, it is very much appreciated. Black Myth Wukong is inspired by the 16th century Chinese novel known as Journey to the West, which, for most of you, will be no surprise. But I figured I'd mention it here just in case you happen to think Wukong is from League of Legends, because that's what a friend of mine said to me. The story for Black Myth Wukong is almost a what-if story that would take place after the events of Journey to the West. Now, I won't sit here and pretend like I know a whole lot about Journey to the West, but I feel confident in saying you don't need to have seen or read the story to pick this game up. After all, if I'm being honest, this game does not really deliver a whole lot of story in an easy-to-digest manner. Sure, it's cool and very mystical, but it's also filled with riddles and esoteric dialogue that sometimes feels like it's just there to sound cool. Now, that isn't to say that it doesn't do a good job at that, but if you were looking for a retelling of the classic tale or deep dialogue-based story, this just isn't it. But if you're somebody who's looking for an absolutely breathtaking game that has out-of-this-world visuals at a scale I can't even begin to express to you, then you might want to stick around and listen to what I have to say next. This game has some of the best visual fidelity of any game that has released of all time. And I don't feel like that's an exaggeration. I know a lot of times we talk about games and how good they look, but this game truly is magnificent. It is beautiful. And that beauty does come at a cost. Even on PC, currently I'm running a 4080 for those of you who know what that is. And at times the game did stutter a bit, and I've heard that on PS5, similar experiences from other players, though I can't confirm it myself. With the right hardware, I do believe that this game has some, like I said, has some stuttering, but it is easy to overlook because it is absolutely just so good looking. And it's just damn fun, honestly. The combat in this game is... People have been comparing it to God of War, Souls-like games. Is it this? Is it that? I'm not going to try and put a label on it. I'll tell you this. It's definitely harder on average than God of War, but it's not as hard as a FromSoft game. And I think it sits in a really nice spot because the game is incredibly fun, and for a lot of people, those games can be, Souls-like games can be a little bit too challenging, and I think this game, while it is challenging, it's not quite as punishing, which I think allows people to really get more out of it if they struggle with those harder types of games. Now, that's not to say that if you're a Souls-like veteran that you won't get anything out of this game, because one of the things that this game really does nail, that FromSoft is really famous for, is the sort of mysticism that their worlds have, where, like I mentioned before, there's very little dialogue and everything is very esoteric and you kind of have to dig for yourself kind of feel. This game has a lot of that. A lot of foreboding feeling, a lot of secrets, a lot of mystery, and they play into it so well, and it feels really, really good for the game, and it doesn't feel like they're just trying to be like something else. It feels like they went about it their own way, and in a way that, personally, I just loved. I thought it was awesome. One of my favorite things that this game did was just the way that it opens. You'll see some of it in this video, but it just throws you right into something epic and awesome. And the game does those kinds of scenes just so incredibly well. And the first time you boot it up, you're like, oh, I'm in it. It's on. And you just start going. And you don't even know really what you're doing, but you're like, it looks cool. It feels good. It's really it's just fun. It's just a fun action game. And I think, a lot of games nowadays, they kind of miss that. Just throw the player in, let them have some fun, and then you can exposition dump, because they love to do that. In games nowadays, they want to dump 30 minutes of dialogue and cutscenes on you before you've even had a chance to do anything. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves with modern games, is just let me have some fun with this game that you spent all this time on before you talk my ear off. Because half the time, I can't even sit through it because it's just boring. I'm not invested. Just let me play a little bit, and then I'll watch your cutscene, because I already know the gameplay afterwards is going to be worth the wait. And the gameplay in this game is absolutely worth the wait. You might start the game and think, okay, I've got my light attack, my heavy attack, and I've got maybe 3 abilities that I can do. No. It gets a lot deeper. There's a lot. There's armor crafting, weapon crafting, and some people may not like that. It's not overwhelming. It's a very intuitive system that flows naturally into the game that feels really good. It doesn't feel like you have to go super out of your way or grind a bunch of mats and stuff like that. You kind of just accumulate them as you play through the game. You might be one or two short on something, you can buy it, or you can go track it down if you want to. Other things like a super extensive talent tree that just has tons and tons of ways that you can make the gameplay your own and kind of experiment with stuff. And it's not unforgiving. If you put points into something and you realize you don't like it, you can just take them out. It's no problem. You just swap it, which is great. I love that. Another cool thing you can do is once you've defeated certain enemies, you're able to transform into them, which is just really, really awesome and something that comes out of left field. I mean, not so much if you're familiar with the story of Wukong, maybe, but I still found it a pleasant surprise. Wasn't necessarily something that I expected. And this goes from just a short, boost to some stats and, just transforming into something and using an ability real quick. Or there are full-on transformations where you can literally take the form of something else and fight as them for a pretty decent amount of time. Which leads me into my next thing, bosses, bosses, bosses. There are so many bosses in this game, I swear. You walk from one boss to the next boss to the next boss. And it's not in a bad way. It's so good. All the little critters and minions in between, who cares? They don't matter. Yeah, they're there. Some of them are challenging. They are interesting, and some of them do have some pretty cool movesets, but there's so many good bosses. Even right off the bat, in the first 4 or 5 hours of gameplay, you're going to fight a ton of bosses that have really varied movesets and really, really good designs. Like, I think one of the most impressive things about this game is the boss design, and they're just fun fights. I mean, like, yeah, some of them are very challenging, some of them not so much, and you have the kind of power in this game where sometimes you feel like you're a little overpowered, but then you get to another boss where the strategy that you may have used before is just not going to work, and they're just going to stomp you. And then you have to kind of reel it in a bit and be like, okay, I need to be a little more strategic. Maybe use some potions to boost my defense or give myself more health, things like that. But if you like, I would say Souls-like, as much as I don't want to, Souls-like bosses, there are a lot of them in this game. And there are a lot of bosses in this game that are not quite Souls-like, but still a lot of fun. Designed really well, and I think overall the game is just a really good time. I think that for a studio's first outing, I mean, you really can't ask for more than what this game has delivered. And with the way this game has broken records, I'm really excited to see what this studio will do in the future with their releases. In terms of time effectiveness for this game and replayability, time effectiveness wise, it works well. You know, like if you're playing, you fight a boss, you shut the game down, it picks right back up wherever you left off. There's not really much more to say about it other than that. You can kind of get on there for 30 minutes or so and feel like you made some progression. Like I've found myself multiple times hopping on, fighting a boss, you know, giving it 10, 20 tries, whatever it takes, killing the boss, and then shutting it down for the day. But when it comes to replayability, this game does have New Game Plus, which adds like new weapons and the ability to upgrade your armor, amongst a bunch of other things. So I would say, if you really enjoyed it and you want to give it another go, you can do it through New Game Plus, and it's more difficult if that's something that you care for. So with all that being said, my final score for Black Myth Wukong is a buy it out of 10. If you want to have fun and you just want to experience just a great game, go ahead and pick it up. I think it's a great buy. You really can't go wrong with a game like this. It's just a lot of fun, and clearly a lot of love went into this game and a lot of work. As I said before, if you want to support our channel, you can leave us a like, a comment, and a sub. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next Should a Dad Play?